Good morning. Welcome to TVI Tips from Amanda. Today we're going to be looking at the parts of the Braille writer so that my paraprofessionals or parents of my students can help reinforce the same vocabulary with students when they're working with them. I think it's important that we all use the same words for the parts of a brailler so that our students or our children aren't confused and so that they can have that consistency across different environments. So this particular video is geared more towards people who aren't familiar with braillers. Some of the words that I'm using might be slightly different from what other TVIs might use, and that's okay. I like to use the same vocabulary that my students will use when they start using a QWERTY keyboard with a computer. So if there are some nuanced differences between TVIs, that's fine. We all kind of develop our own words for different parts of a brailler. So right now we're looking at the front of a blue Perkins brailler. This is a light touch brailler. The keys are easier to push down on this brailler than the gray Perkins brailler, but the parts are exactly the same. They're also the same as a unimanual gray brailler, which is a brailler where you can type in, press keys on the left side and they'll stay down, and then you can press in keys on the right side, and that's for people who need to use just one hand or even just a couple fingers when they're writing their braille, but all the parts are exactly the same. While we're looking at the front of the brailler, the first and largest piece we see is the handle. It's the way you carry the brailler. One other neat functionality of this particular piece is for my students with low vision or who have some functional vision, or maybe there are students who with a progressive vision loss. We can use note cards with print words on top, and they can look at the print word and then braille it. You can also hold up other little reminders and even braille flashcards on top they can read with their fingers before they maybe type something or answer a question or whatever. So we have our handle. Below your handle is a gray movable piece that can slide left and right. It is the carriage, like on an old school typewriter. It moves the head, which now we're gonna look at the top of the brailler. The head is right here. If you push down on it, it makes that fun noise that all my students love to hear. The head of the brailler produces the braille as you press the keys, and the carriage moves the head along left and right. Whenever you start writing braille, you always want to make sure your carriage is on the left side. Continuing looking at the front of the brailler, we have our line spacer key. I refer to this key as enter for my students because they're going to start typing at some point and they're going to know enter moves you to the next line. So instead of saying line spacer key, I say enter. Then we have our 6 dot keys. You have 3 on the left, starting near the space bar, which is the middlemost key. To the left of the space bar, you have dots 1, 2, 3, moving towards the left. And to the right of the space bar, directly to the right, moving towards the right, you have 4, 5, and 6. In another video, we'll talk about why those keys are set up that way and the importance of using correct finger placement on the keys, but that's not the purpose of this video. And then at the far right of the front of the braille, you have your backspace key. And the backspace key moves the carriage and the head back just one space with each press. As you're putting paper in, which also another video will cover, you will initially bring your paper holders up. You have a paper holder on your left side of the key of the brailler, and on the right side they move together, so you only have to move one at a time. For students who maybe have a little bit of strength issue, they might push on both the left and right head at the same time, but usually we just use one hand. To put paper in, your paper holders go up. To put paper in, your paper holders go down. As it sounds, it holds the paper in. Once your paper holders are in, you roll with either your left or your right roller. They're circular knobs, and sometimes they look a little different than on my brailler, but they're circular knobs on the left and right sides of the brailler. To roll the paper in, you roll the roller towards you. To roll paper out, you roll it out, away from you. You don't have to move both rollers at the same time. Sometimes people will do a half turn circle with their left and then a half turn circle with their right, or they do them both at the same time, or they just only use one. Doesn't really matter how you do your paper. There's just a bunch of different ways to do that. I have some songs I might sing in other videos about how you roll your paper in. Now I'm gonna turn the brailler so we can see the back. From the back of the brailler, you have this gray bar with kind of these black ridges on it, and it looks like I'm missing some of the little black ridges that roll the paper in, but the gray bar goes above the paper, and the paper slides in between that gray metal bar and then this rubbery black circular bar underneath, like a log, 2 logs that the paper goes between. Here's another view of the head of your brailler. We have some margin or line guides. You can move them in and out depending on what kind of margins you want to set on your page. You just pinch and slide them. Right now my head is in the way, so if I push down on the carriage and slide the head away, I can show you the move. That's moving my left margin from the left side of the page, and I can move the right margin. You can fit all sorts of sizes of paper into a brailler. Usually with my younger students, I'm using 8.5 by 11, and I'm using it in portrait. So the long side goes in, but for my older students who are writing more, I might use larger paper, and I might need to move my line guides all the way to the end. As your head of the brailler approaches your line guide, you'll hear a ding, and that lets the student know that they're getting close to the end of the line. They can start feeling to see if there's enough room to finish whatever word that they're on before going to the next line. But these are the most important parts of the brailler, at least as far as new students are concerned. If you have any questions about the different parts of a brailler or want to know more about them, just let me know and we can make a video about that. I hope this video is helpful to you. Thanks!